Hello, another in studio yap with me, Nicole, and there's a lot to yap about. By the way, do you think this shirt is too summery? I think it might be a little too summery. I don't know. But do you ever do a thing where like, I finally went through my closets and I was like, oh yeah, this is like a summer shirt, but I didn't wear it this summer. So yeah, so I think it's one of those things that you just have to maybe say, I'm going to wear it in September because it's been warm. Anyway, big breaking news. Nicole Kidman, Keith Urban, done after almost 20 years of marriage. They were together 19 years. I got to tell you, there are some Hollywood couples that I was like, no, that won't happen. Like when I saw, let me rephrase that. I guess it's one of those things where it's like, nothing can surprise me because it's Hollywood, it's entertainment. These people are multimillionaires and it's a different world. And there's like famous people and then there's like super famous multimillionaires famous. And that's them. We're like, they're so rich and so famous and they've been in the business with movies and music for such a long time that I think it's just kind of easy for them. And here's why I say, and I don't mean easy as in it's not sad, it doesn't hurt, but let me preface it by saying I was on The Biggest Loser. We talked about this and that's kind of annoying how that's flipping around, isn't it? Okay. And I became really good friends with my friend Nicole, funny, same name. And she was Bob Harper's assistant. And I love Bob. We had a great time. And when he had broken up with one of his partners, one of his partners broke up, like Nicole handled everything. That do you ever notice like how can celebrities move on that fast? And I think for normal people, when you have to think about the hardest part of a breakup, right? Like arranging moving out, arranging who's going to live where, arranging how you're going to have the money to do it, what's going to happen with the kids. Like when you're a celebrity and you're that rich and famous and you have personal assistants, you have managers, you have lawyers, you have financial advisors. So you take somebody like Jennifer Lopez, right? And like Mark Anthony, because you have to remember, like Mark Anthony has a huge, Latin fan base. And like he is just as famous and well off as she is. Like they have private jets and they have assistants. So, the kids are taking the private jet from J-Lo to Mark Anthony, right? It's such a different world. And when you think of in terms of like assets, first of all, there's usually prenup signed. And remember, Nicole Kidman was with Tom Cruise. So she was already super famous when she got with Keith Urban. So it's like their assets they probably have their own bank account with their assets that their financial people and their lawyers and their managers come in and they just go check, enter, right? And then even in like terms of phone calls, it's like Keith's assistant probably calls Nicole's assistant and then they arrange it. So it's a thing where they probably don't even need to speak. And think about the fact they obviously have homes in Australia, in Nashville. They probably have a massive house in LA. Nicole does tons of work. They probably could very well have a place in New York. So in terms of like being worried about where you're going to reside, and they have so much money that they can literally just be like, yeah, I'm filing for divorce and that's it. Like, I'm just going to go live in the New York place until the Nashville place. And then you just have people who, like, some people who are really, really rich and famous have multiple assistants and managers. Like, there's a house manager. There's, like, one main manager, right, that handles, like, your business stuff. But then you have, like, a personal manager that then manages all the assistants. And then the manager manages the assistants. So you have somebody who manages, like, everything personal, which they're doing the shopping, they're doing your grocery shopping, they're doing your laundry. But then you have somebody that's doing all your business stuff, right? So they're setting up your interviews, and then those assistants are talking to each other, and then those assistants are talking to the manager. And then the manager is talking to the record company, is talking to the TV studio. So in a weird way, it's, the people say like money is the root of all evil, and that's true. And they say money doesn't buy happiness, but it buys convenience, and it buys a peace of mind in a lot of ways. Don't get me wrong, money definitely causes drama, and there could be a lot of negative things with money, but in a lot of ways, money can be really, really, really convenient and make your life easier. And so I'm sure that they were in love, and who knows? I kind of was joking because the last couple projects that she has done have been with these hot young co-stars, like Baby Girl, when they did like Father Figure, and I think his name's Harrison Dickerson. He's so hot. And I'm like, damn, Nicole, like, okay, get it, girl. And it was kind of like a joke. Like, did she like purposefully start, because she's Nicole Kidman, like she could pick any project she wants. Like she has full authority and full autonomy to do anything she wants at this point in her career, right? And so I'm like, was she picking these like hot young actors? And I remember even thinking, like, is Keith cool with this? Like, I thought it was a little weird that she kept picking these projects, but then I was like, you know what? She's like in her 50s. She wants to still feel sexy and desired and wanted and hot and young. And she's like, if I could do it, why not? Like, why not hook up with a 28-year-old, right? So, I guess in a lot of ways, right? So I don't know. I think it's pretty interesting, and who knows, supposedly it was his decision. So like, I don't know, maybe he was like, because she also works a lot when you think about it. Like she does a ton of work, and she's been an actress for 40 years. So I think it's one of those things that like she loves to work. But maybe look at Tom and Giselle, right? Like we really don't know for certain what happened with them, but it's pretty safe that they had numerous conversations that, they were going to live in Boston. And remember, she's Brazilian. She's from South America, right? So living in Boston, and she was the highest paid supermodel in the world, right? And I think that there was probably multiple conversations. Okay, when you reach 20 years or when you whatever those conversations were, like, you're going to be done. And then he just wasn't done. And then he said he was going to retire and then came back and he still couldn't do it. And I think she was like, done. And he's done a couple documentaries. He did when Facebook Watch was a thing, he did something, and he's done a couple things. And I've always followed along because I love pop culture and I kind of am very interested in him. And I think for a lot of women, the burden falls on them, and she really gave up a lot. And obviously she adores her kids. And I think she gave up a lot to be with him. And then when it was his turn to reciprocate, he didn't. And I think she was like, you thought I was kidding? Like, I'm done. And now she's splitting her time between, Brazil and Costa Rica and Miami. And she's drinking her green juice and riding horses bareback and living with her hot boyfriend and just had another baby at 45. And so who knows the real reason of what happened with Nicole and Keith. And in a way too, like 19 years is a long time, and I do think we want marriage to work, but I also think that humans are flawed, and sometimes you can't say that 20 years, like, oh, gave up 20 years. No, you did it for 20 years, and be proud of yourself for committing, for 20 years. And I think a lot of people are so hard on themselves when something quote unquote fails, but sometimes it's not a failure, right? Sometimes it's just, it's ran its course. And I think of some of the friendships I had, and obviously it's way different when you're married and you have children and all that. But even look at the fact that, she doesn't even speak to her two children she had with Tom Cruise because of Scientology. And I don't know if we'll ever get the real story on any of it, but it is sad. And a lot of times when celebrities get divorced, they have been separated. A lot of times it's like a year, at least 6 months, and then they announce it to the public. Unless something like dramatic happened and then one of them was like trying to stick it to the other one. You know what I mean? Like a smear. Joe Jonas and Sophie Turner kind of had some of that drama, but now they worked it out. And again, I go back to like Gwyneth Paltrow and Chris Martin when they did the whole conscious uncoupling and everybody made fun of them. But like, the whole point of that was to put the kids first and to, you know, be mindful of, we did love each other at one point, so we're going to try to do this best we could. And now that's kind of like the blueprint. So anyway, wishing Nicole and Keith well. I'm sure they're both going to be fine, but you know, it's still sad. And it's still sad for us because it's like, we want to believe in love. And that's why when you're like, rom-coms aren't real, I'm like, yes, they are. All right, thank you.